Nick Jackson is a second-team All-ACC performer at Virginia as a linebacker who, I don't know, maybe you can clarify this, Jason. Is he a graduate transfer or did he enter the transfer portal? Do you know?
He entered the transfer portal. I don't know. I don't think he's a graduate transfer.
Okay.
But I don't know that for sure. I know that he was a three-time All ACC selection, as we mentioned. We talked about that a little bit before. I think last year had 117 tackles, um, and yeah, I'm just kind of looking through here. I don't see anything specific to him being a graduate transfer. So um, he's a really big impact transfer for Oklahoma, and I think this is between Oklahoma and Iowa from everything that I've heard. He's taken visits to both, likes both. I think he's in one of those situations where he's really looking for. I don't think NIL is a big impact here, a big part of his decision. I think the biggest part of his decision here is really just trying to put himself in a position to have a little bit more, a little bit more notoriety from a draft perspective. So I think you've got two ways to look at this, right? If you're Oklahoma, and if you're Nick Jackson making this decision, whereas you look at Oklahoma, you look at Brent Venables as one of, if not the best linebacker coaches in the country. Um, does that is that intriguing enough? Is that enticing enough for him to make that decision? Understanding the fact that Oklahoma's defense has not been, extremely solid over the last, 10 to 15 years, or do you go to a place like Iowa that has maybe you don't have as much of the national media, as much of the national brand and attention as you would at Oklahoma, but still a fairly good brand at Iowa. But certainly Iowa has more of a situation where they've put out great defenses year in and year out over the last few years. So I think it'll be interesting. The one thing that is, I think, intriguing to think through this, and we talked about this last week in terms of Bronco Mendenhall being someone that there's some discussions with. Don't really know how far advanced those discussions are in terms of him possibly coming over to be the defensive coordinator. But I have heard that Nick Jackson and Mendenhall are very, very close. So not necessarily saying that it's a package deal or anything like that, but saying that, you know if Oklahoma was able to pull the trigger on both of them, I think it would be obviously mutually beneficial. So I think that's one thing that to look at, as Jackson looks to make that decision between Oklahoma and Iowa.
Jackson's played 40 games in his career, and as Jason has outlined, and we posted the stats, has been extremely productive in his career. Back-to-back 100 tackle seasons for the Virginia Cavaliers, and as Jason noted, basically has lived on the All-ACC first or second team during the last 3 years. So, yeah, I think Jason did a nice job of outlining the pros and cons of Oklahoma versus Iowa. Iowa's posted one of the best defenses in the nation the last several seasons. They do, based on my conversations with our guy Corey Bratta at our Iowa show, they lose a ton of linebacking uh, productivity, including Jack Campbell, who's one of the best in the country. So he's looking at, I don't think he's in a situation where he's concerned about playing time. So he's not looking for an opening that he's going to have to fit into. He's going to be a player and going to be a starter regardless. But just whatever he considers to be a good fit. And I got to think on the surface, either one's a pretty good selection.